The first rays of the sun made their way up among the mountains surrounding the Scottish highlands. In the morning mist, one could see a hare hopping among the dew-filled grass, and in the distance, a family of foxes could be seen emerging from their den, just waking up. 19-year-old Love Cransmith, who was out hiking with his girlfriend Arabella Cransmith, thought to himself that this could turn out to be a great day. Love, who had previously lived in Gothenburg, had emigrated to Scotland and settled in its capital, Edinburgh. There he had met 18-year-old Arabella Cransmith. The very first time he had seen her, he had been almost floored by her divine beauty, with her long, straight crimson hair and emerald green eyes, which, together with her pale pink lips, radiated an energy of sensuality and cheerfulness. Love and Arabella had married after their meeting, and now Love was living with Arabella in a brick house on the outskirts of Edinburgh. Love and Arabella had been hiking for several hours. They had started in the middle of the night to cover a good distance, as there was still a long way to their final destination. Suddenly, they spotted a beautiful, bubbling river flowing through a valley. There was something utterly mesmerizing about this river because the sun's rays turned into sparkling gold when they hit the foaming current. Arabella was the first to break the silence. "Oh, what a beautiful river! What could it be called? I haven't seen it on the map," Arabella said, looking at the river in astonishment. "I have no idea what it could be called," Love replied while watching the river, "but I agree that it is beautiful." "Is it just me, or does that river smell like a lovely glass of whiskey?" Arabella said, sniffing the air. "You're right, the river smells just like a glass of whiskey," Love responded. Arabella, who loved to drink whiskey, rushed over to the river and knelt down in front of it. She dipped her finger into the water, and when she pulled it out again, she discovered that her finger had vanished. She could still feel it, but it had become invisible. Arabella let out a scream because she was afraid the river had taken her finger, but after 7 seconds, the finger became visible again. Love couldn't believe his eyes. Throughout his life, he had believed that magic only existed in fairy tales, but now he was witnessing magic right before his eyes. Arabella slowly leaned forward and then took a sip of the river's water. Love could see how Arabella was surrounded by a mass of sparkling stars while she sat drinking from the bubbling river. Arabella turned to Love. "Love!" Arabella shouted with a joyful voice. "I can't believe it! This river tastes just like whiskey." "Does it?" Love responded with a surprised voice. "Yes, it does," Arabella replied. "You have to come and taste the water. It tastes like the best whiskey I've ever had." Love approached the river, and the moment he knelt down in front of it, he saw a sheep approaching the river on the other side. The thirsty sheep stuck its tongue into the water and began drinking from the river. After the sheep had finished drinking, both Love and Arabella saw how the sheep's wool turned beige and its tongue turned golden. Once again, Love couldn't believe his eyes. It was as if he were in a fantasy novel. Love took a sip of the river's water. Arabella was right as usual. The river water tasted just like a glass of whiskey. The water tasted like an unusually sweet and good whiskey. "What did I tell you?" Arabella said. "Doesn't the water taste exactly like whiskey?" "Oh, yes," Love replied. "It tastes like an unusually sweet whiskey." "I don't care if I get drunk," Arabella said. "This water tastes so good and I'm not going to stop drinking from it." "Neither will I," Love said, taking another sip. "This is pure luxury water." "I've always loved drinking whiskey. I wouldn't survive if whiskey didn't exist," Arabella said, continuing to gulp down scoop after scoop of water. Love and Arabella agreed that this water was pure luxury water, and they both agreed that the river was a magical river. But despite both Love and Arabella wanting to stop drinking from the water after a while, they couldn't. It was as if the river had caught them in a hypnotic grip. The morning mist began to fade, and the dew on the grass started to dry. Love and Arabella noticed that the river began to disappear, and by the end of the dawn, the river had vanished completely. Love realized that the magical river only appeared during dawn, and when dawn was over, it disappeared. Arabella got up. "Now that the dawn river has disappeared, I suggest we continue with our hike," Arabella said. "That sounds like a good idea," Love replied. Love got up, and then he and his wife began walking along the mountains. The morning mist had now completely faded, and the sun shone like a big light bulb in the bright blue sky. Love and Arabella decided to walk a bit longer and then return to their tent. After Love and Arabella had walked for 3 hours, Arabella grabbed her stomach while grimacing. Love could see that she looked unwell. "What's wrong?" Love asked worriedly. "You look like you're feeling sick." Arabella turned to Love. "I don't know why, but I've started to feel nauseous," Arabella replied. "And also I have a stomach ache." "Have you been eating too much haggis lately?" Love wondered with a chuckle. "Ha ha ha, very funny," Arabella replied with sarcasm. "You know full well that I don't get sick from eating too much haggis." Love and Arabella continued walking, but after another 3 hours, Arabella began to moan again. She clutched her stomach once more, and it almost looked like she was about to start vomiting. "It looks like you're about to vomit," Love said. Arabella didn't respond to him, and the next second she crouched down and, after 5 seconds, began to vomit. Love couldn't believe his eyes, but Arabella began to vomit jewels. Jewel after jewel started to pour out of her wide-open mouth. But the most disgusting part wasn't seeing Arabella vomit, as she used to do when she was drunk. The most disgusting part was seeing the jewels covered in mucus and saliva. Arabella couldn't stop vomiting no matter how hard she tried, and every time she stopped vomiting, she had stomach cramps, which made her need to vomit again. Suddenly, Love also began to vomit, but he vomited not jewels, but pearl necklaces and pearl bracelets. Love had to crouch just like Arabella to prevent himself from fainting from the vomiting attacks. "What is happening to us?" Arabella exclaimed while vomiting again. "I don't know," Love replied. "Wait a minute, I think it must be that Dawn River that's making us nauseous." "You're probably right. It must be the water we drank that's making us vomit jewelry," Arabella agreed. "Oh, how I wish we had never seen the Dawn River," Love said with an irritated voice. It was indeed enchantingly beautiful, but it seemed to have a terrible curse. "Well, there's not much we can do about it right now. It's no use crying over spilled whiskey," Arabella said with a wry smile. "It's probably best if we head straight back to Edinburgh and see a doctor, or what do you say, Love?" "I wish I could respond to your comment, but I can't because—" Love began, but was interrupted by another vomiting attack. Love and Arabella turned around and began walking back to their tent. They had decided that as soon as they had packed up all their things, they would head towards Edinburgh. Both Love and Arabella wished they had never drunk from the river's water, but at the same time, they thought it was quite cool that they had seen the mysterious river that only appeared at dawn. After all, it wasn't every day that one got to see a magical river in the Scottish Highlands.